We're good. Welcome to the Park and Rec Commission meeting, February 4th. Call to order and roll call. All commissioners present, staff, and one citizen. Is there any adoption of the agenda, deletions, additions, or changes?
I move that we accept the agenda as written.
Do I have a second?
Aye. A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of January 7th.
I move that we approve the minutes as printed out.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Citizen communications. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam
Oh.
Chairman.
Thank you.
My name is Anja Miller, resident for 48 years in Brisbane. You probably know, I'm a very happy beneficiary of all the recreation programs that I can enjoy, and that are not only fun but also good for health and safety. And that is, of course, particularly the pool and health maintenance faction of that. And the other is the wonderful Agile Aging class that is provided through the grant. It is really the most wonderful thing to avoid falls, and the teacher is world class. So you're very, very fortunate to have her, and I enjoy it. And the reason I've been communicating with you about various issues is because I have a kind of a personal investment in the program and in the facilities. And I understand that you were supposed to get this book. Have you seen it before?
A long time ago I've seen it, yes.
Yeah. It's being delivered to you because I feel, everything that you do, or we all do, is building on what was done before.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've been so much involved in what went before, I thought I'd just give you, with your indulgence, a short history of some of the developments of our parks and recreation facilities. Some of it may not be relevant in your judgment, but I thought I'd put it on the record anyway. First, I'd like to say about the rec and the tot lot. It always was called a rec. The building was there when we came here in '67, but there was a playground. You remember, Bonnie, a sandbox,
Rec.
8 by 8 or so, and there was no place for anyone to sit down, for instance, like mothers. So there were mothers of us. We had toddlers, and we went to the city and asked if we could have a bench. And so a volunteer, the person who lived closest to the rec, came and built us a simple bench, just a board. And we were happy with that, and our kids were playing in the sand. We walked there. That was in '67. In the '70s, we had the first preschool starting to operate in the rec building. It was volunteer, completely volunteer, and we had our oil painting class by Byron Jensen, remember?
Mm-hmm.
He taught oil painting. And that group designed a Christmas card, a Brisbane Christmas card, first time. And that card was sold to benefit the preschool. And with the money we raised, we were able to buy those small tables and chairs for kids, toddlers size. And last time I visited, one was still there, one of the chairs. So that was, all volunteer, because the city didn't have any money to do anything then. So everything was volunteer community organizations, women's clubs, very active. And that's the first play structure, the wooden play structure, also in the 70s, was built by the women's club and their friends, you know, their
Exactly.
husbands and so
We
on.
had a work crew.
You had the work group, yeah. So that was, again, women's club was a very, very big contributor to everything in the way of recreation. As to the walkways that you're dealing with, that was done in 74 and 75 when we got the major federal grant to fix all our streets. We built the gutters and sidewalks, and I really was the one insisting that we should also include in that program walkways. And so those were all designed, the bicentennial and so on. Besides the center was already there, central walkway, but those were all put in, and gradually, of course, it couldn't all be built at that same time, but they were the last part of the street improvement project. Firth Park was also dedicated in the 70s, and I was personally involved in planting the trees there, so I'm familiar with that. The community center library was a very interesting work with the county in the 70s. We initiated a plan. The only way we could get a library was to get the county to cooperate, but we also had the building site, and the park site was donated, and so we were able to say, well, the city has the land, why don't you give us money and we have a dual purpose building. And that's the only way we could get a library, was to collaborate. And in that building in the 80s, I believe, we had the dance floor was donated.
Right.
It came from Sacramento, from a West Wind dance group, and it was volunteer installed completely. I was there myself on my hands and knees helping with the floor. And on that floor, one of the first things before we even had the dance workshop, I think, was a folk dance class for the whole family. Bob Detmer taught that. He was a dancer, and so was Michelle, and so we had tried to the whole family kind of exercise and fun. And it failed because we had the early teens, you know, the skate park group kind of messed up everything. They couldn't participate at the same level, so kind of fizzled. But it was one of those volunteer classes. The pool also started in the 70s in the sense that we actually tried to raise funds for it, volunteer funds, and to somehow get enough money then to, as at least a seed to build a pool, and that was in the 70s. There were several fundraising things. One was in the DeMarcos, I know, Janine Hodge did that, and I was, you know, trying, but of course we didn't get very much together. Nothing like, you know, but the city established an account for that money, so it's been kept there. I hope it's still there as a, you know, resource fund for the pool. Not much. Sierra Point, in 74, the marina plan was really first developed, and the history book has a story on that. The plan included from the start, besides the high-class marina, parks, fishing pier, and trail access to the bay on all sides. That was, of course, required by law. By that time, the bay plan was in place, but we made sure that we were right there to plan it right from the start. And finally, I think public art also has been, up to now, completely volunteer based. The fire plugs, they were painted by the Women's Club.
76.
Right, you have the date, yeah. Yeah, and that was, something that the community groups did, not the city. But the city, of course, cooperated,
Oh, yeah.
always,
Oh, yeah.
always, with all the
Oh, yeah.
groups, yeah. And in the 80s, actually, we had the first piece of public art in Brisbane, and that was the raccoon in Costaños Canyon. A bronze sculpture created by Spero Anargyrus, who was really the first professional, the successful artist. He had a studio on Tunnel Avenue. He's passed now. But that was the first piece of public art. And of course, the fundraising was done totally by volunteers. People contributed, and it cost a little money to have that nice sculpture. And it was memorializing Byron, who was very big in everything that had to do with the youth of Brisbane and adults. So I just wanted you to maybe pay attention to what's gone before and the spirit of community participation. Of course, you had that with the community park, wonderful community participation, and to continue that and think of what is important and priority and all that. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for getting us these books.
I can't wait to read these.
So,
Never seen one of these before.
so,
Isn't
Well,
there a
I-
new one coming out?
Look what I found.
A fire
I
plug.
was looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
The fire plugs.
Yes.
so,
What?
through the chair, while Anya's here, I'd like to ask her a question.
Okay.
Hi, Anya. So, so in coming and bringing this to our attention, was there something that has been concerning you that you felt that we ought to be briefed on this for their purpose? Is there something?
Well, I gotten some impression that there isn't enough information. Let's put it that way. And I always feel if there is lack of information, whatever it is and however relevant is considered to be, that it be present. And so this is just a little sketch to that, and to say why I may be bringing things like about the weekend thing in a park where you just have use that I don't feel comfortable with. And it's because I do this not because of myself, but because of my grandchildren and because of all this investment I have in time over 40 years in but we have wonderful facilities here. Your work is extremely important, and I just wish you the best, but felt that a little bit of history was in order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to old business. Recommendation to the City Council for creation of an art show featuring images of the city fire hydrants and possible use of images for fundraising purposes.
Well, I can talk about this.
Yes.
We had a meeting, and basically, I'm collecting the photos. I'm looking at what we have, putting a show together. I'm going to be coming to Kevin's show next Wednesday. You all should come. And there's a woman who put the whole show for him together, and she's going to be there, and I'm going to pick her brain about what it would cost to put our show together, and like kind of tell her what I was thinking and how much like canvas prints would cost versus like printing on foam core and things like that. So hopefully then I can get a rough idea, like per photo, how much those things cost, so they can kind of figure out how many photos we want to show, what size, and that sort of thing, so we can start working on numbers. But right now we're looking at May as the show month, which is kind of a ways away. So we still have time to still have a lot of time to plan, and that's just kind of what's going on. But nothing too much.
I just have a question for you. So you said you're collecting the photos.
I'm
So you-
collecting them from the photographers.
So you've gotten their usage rights to use
Um,
them, or, without?
Yeah, we're
is-
talking about it.
Are there any costs to that, and is it, Are they
That's like kind of the condition, is that if they let me use the photos, then like they're just, at this point we're not using them to raise money. We're not making a calendar or anything.
so you're not
So-
fundraising then?
Not this go around.
Okay.
I think the point is that that Stuart wants a budget, because we still may need to ask the city council, like we need to tell them how much it's going to cost, and then they're going to tell us if they have it in the budget to do that. But I won't be able to tell them that until I kind of see what we have, know how many photos I'd like to show, and then talk to a professional about like how much it's going to cost to print them. So from the people that I've talked to, they don't have a problem with me like printing their work out and frame, displaying it and having an exhibit surrounding their work. And so I'm not having that discussion about selling stuff.
So,
So-
one of the things just need to ask is, will the city retain ownership of the photo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if we frame it, then we give it back framed without an agreement that that's what we're going to do, that could be considered a gift of public funds to somebody.
Okay. Yeah.
So what we may say is that we have the right to use it if we frame it, and then that's the payment that we're getting, that we're paying the person to return a framed photo. So maybe you and I can just talk a little bit about how to
Word that.
word
Yeah,
that.
that's important as I'm figuring out
Because
what we're going to use.
the other thing we could do with it is, if they let us keep their photo image, we could do is just put up into, we can add it to our archive.
Yeah.
So,
So are you talking about because I'll receive them digitally, obviously, and then we'll print them out. So are you talking about us retaining like the physical copy,
Correct.
or like the rights to use the digital
well, I would
copy?
say, I think that's one of the things that we probably need just to iron out with our attorney to make sure that we're doing this correctly.
Right. I would think, in my opinion, we would just I'd probably want to focus on just the physical image, because then I think when you start getting into like owning the digital copy to use on flyers and other things, then that can get like a little bit more hairy,
Right.
I can't think of a better word to describe it.
There's some technical things that probably you and I
Yeah.
can just talk and
Yeah, we'll talk.
We can run it through the attorney just to make sure that we're not doing anything.
Yeah, I don't want anything to come back and bite us later.
No.
I just want us to be successful.
Yes.
So whatever
So
we
you're,
have to do.
what I understand, you're going to have an exhibit show like
Yeah, so
we're having.
Kevin's gonna have one next
one
week,
next week.
and it'll
Okay.
follow like that, and there'll be refreshments, and invite the people who are in the photos, people who took the photos, people who participated in the event.
Oh, any city
down. Yeah.
resident.
Yeah, anyone.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, new business. We don't have any.
I'd like to ask a question about that.
Sure.
How is no new business being set?
Well, we talked about this at the last couple of meetings, that we're holding up a lot of issues until March, when we have a full commission back.
But we were gonna have like a lot of subcommittees, so we felt we should still meet because
Right,
there was
and
still like a lot.
that was what the conversation we had in December and in January was that there's, we're going to be bringing the budget back to you in March. We're going to be talking about the vision and mission statement in March.
We tabled a lot.
So-
We
Right, so there's
tabled
a lot of
I
lot.
realize, but then I'm thinking, here we are, we're in February, and then how much longer before we now are submitting any new business?
Well, this was a conversation that the Parks and Recreation Commission has had.
And
at
now
previous
I'm
meetings.
wondering,
Yeah.
are we going to update that or change it? Are we still waiting?
Well,
see.
the idea is that in March there would be items that are going to be discussed, as the commission told us. That's when they
Yeah.
wanted to discuss them.
That's,
So in March, we're going to have items to discuss, but how will they be presented? So they're on the agenda so that the
Right.
public knows we're going to discuss them.
Right. As anything that that you guys discuss, it'd be on the agenda.
at the end of this meeting, we'll discuss the calendar for next
All right.
month.
And so then they'll be put on for new business for next month.
Or old business, depending on where they should be slotted.
Yeah, we all agreed on that last meeting.
I understand, but I'm just asking, at this point, we've come to that issue at new business, and I'm saying, okay, if this is new business, are we going to now say what's going to be new business for next month, or?
No,
Where-
we usually do
Yeah.
that when we talk about the commission calendar at the end,
Yeah.
under commission matters.
Then we shall.
Yeah. Okay, reports. Chairperson. I don't have anything to report until the subcommittees. So we'll move to subcommittees. Subcommittee meeting reports. Do you want me to just go down the list?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we didn't meet for the Derby. Concerts in the park.
We met for that. It's just preliminary. We had lots of different ideas, having 5 concerts and then having Brisbane night, karaoke night, dance night. What else did we say?
Well, what was interesting to me was that we started out with saying the season is going to be changed and it will start in July.
Yes.
I like that.
But let's wait. But that was not something that was brought before the commission, and the commission has always made that decision. But it was a fait accompli, as far as I was concerned, the way it was presented at the committee meeting. So I thought, where has this decision been made since it's being put out on the table at the committee meeting that it has been made, and that now the season is going to start in July? Because we've gone through this over the years. Some people want it earlier, some people want it later. And that's just something we're going to be discussing until, forever, until we get it right for some people, and then we get it right for other people. But to have it said there that it has been decided, it wasn't, how shall I say, it wasn't in those exact words, but that was told to us. The season is going to start in July. Well, where was that decision made? Because it didn't come before us to make that decision. Who made the decision?
I would imagine that Steve asked around and it came from Steve.
Well, that's not.
Well, I mean, maybe he didn't present it in the best way possible. I think this has been an issue that the commission has discussed in the past,
Starting earlier.
starting earlier, and I think, based on that kind of direction that we've heard, Steve was saying, okay, let's try July. And if the commission doesn't want to do July and wants to choose a different month, we can do that.
If that had been the way it was presented, I wouldn't be asking the question.
Well, and there's the answer, is if the commission would like it in a different time period, that's fine. If, Steve was thinking that based on the response we got for the August, people said that they would like it earlier, so that's why he would recommend July. He may not have stated it in the best way possible, but that would be the recommendation that staff would make, is that July would be a better month based on the input that we've received on when we've tried it in August, when we've tried it in September. I mean, there is no perfect time period for it, but
Yeah.
and especially we have heard that from
Yeah.
one of the sponsors, where they have said, a couple of the sponsors said they would like it earlier.
Well, that's not an issue for me at all about,
I'll talk to Steve about
because
how to
I in
present.
fact supported that. However, my support was that we have a season that is extensive, doesn't just take, all right, we start in July and we have 5 concerts and it's over, and come August when we get really terrific weather, we don't have any concerts. And as I reiterated at the end of last year, people after the very last August concert, which was just a beautiful event, the next week people were walking around saying, why isn't there a concert tonight? So in this meeting, when this information was made, as I said, ipso facto, I thought, well, why are we doing it as it has to be this or this? Why don't we extend the concert? We went from let's pay people more and have fewer, but that doesn't serve as many people in the community And in fact, when I heard what some of the bands were asking for, I thought that was a lot of money. And I thought we ought to be able to spread that money out a little bit better and go for other types of opportunities. So I asked for a DJ night, a karaoke night, and I called Sharon Boggs and I asked her this week, and I asked her, could we do something like that? Would you be able to do something like that? She said, sure, we could do a great big thing. We could put up a white sheet. We could put up, I don't know what their screen is that they put up, have the words up. We could do part of it karaoke, part of it DJ dance night. People could ask for, requests because she has a plethora of music and could probably meet everybody's needs. I also asked that we consider having other bands from town because there are other people who have bands and we should advertise so they have an opportunity. I was advised that some are not so good, and I think that will be up to us to just say they're not that good and we wouldn't take them. But apparently there are some others that are and kind of felt left out when two bands were chosen, which I was happy with the two, but I think we ought to make it a little more open. So in asking for a DJ night and a karaoke night, I asked Sharon, what would something like that cost us, knowing what we were paying other people? And she said, well, when I do something for the city, I really do, try to keep the cost down. And she was saying, $500, $600, depending on what they had to do to set up. That's really a great price to have a great night. And she's a great entertainer. They're professionals. She and Leanne do it. They could put on a great show. And that would give us another event, so that would bring us longer. So we don't get this, we want it in July, no, we want it in August.
If I may, what's your budget?
Right,
What's the budget?
Well,
We haven't gotten that far with your committee.
It's donations.
Well, we usually
yeah.
get donations, and it's a matter of how much we raise. But, as I've said in the past, what the commission should do is figure out what they want to provide. We can figure out what
Right.
the cost is, and then we can figure out whether or not we can raise it in donations, or we need to ask for the money. And it seems as if the meeting went properly. Steve was making a recommendation based on what he has heard in the past.
Yes.
If the subcommittee does not agree with that recommendation, they should discuss it, say, here's what we would like to see instead, which sounds
is
like
what
what
we did.
happened. And then the subcommittee would come back to the commission and say, here's what we discussed.
Yes.
And what it sounds like
Which
if
is
you're
what we're
looking,
doing.
Right. It sounds like what you're looking for is additional days, not just 4 or 5 weeks, but you
Yes.
might want, and that might be something the commission might want to say is we would like to have an 8-week program, ask the subcommittee to come up with scheduling what those 8 weeks would be. So it sounds like everything is going the way it's supposed to. Steve may not have presented the idea of that based on what he's heard from other people, that July seems like a better time than August or September.
Well, I guess that's the point.
And
What's the date? The
and I'll
1st
talk to
of
Steve about
July?
that. So let's skip that. Let's
Well,
just
wait,
get to the solution.
hey.
Just a second, please.
What is the date?
July 3rd.
Starting with July 3rd.
Right.
And first you started July 3rd to,
We're going to try to go into
There's
August,
5 Fridays in July.
okay.
depending on how much.
But
yeah.
when in your meeting, you said July 3rd to what?
To the 31st.
Okay,
That's
because
the
I
5
didn't hear that.
concerts.
Okay.
Then we go into August for the others.
You could start in the middle of
Okay,
July.
Hold on,
Go to
hold
the middle of
on.
August.
One person, please. Is there any money left over from the donations or a budget that you have from last year?
I'd have to look. I believe not.
Was that discussed? Is there
No.
any funds?
I'd have
So
to look.
these are all going to start with new funds, new donations.
Could very well be.
Okay.
Could very well be. And we talked about putting a cap on the amount that we would pay out per band.
Yeah.
So that we don't have somebody come in and want, 2,500 and somebody else gets 700.
Yeah.
And maybe the quality by some standards is really that good that they merit it, but maybe we can't afford it because in fact we're trying to provide a longer season so people can have those Friday nights across the season. People who want to come during times when it's light out, fine. And incidentally, I want to speak to this. This is not an accusation to Steve. I think he was, when we say it's stuff he heard, but it wasn't heard from here. And so I'm trying to make it, understanding is, we talked about it, but there was never any decision.
If I may, in the past, we have had citizens come and speak at Citizens Communications in the last couple years and bring up different, it was even brought up for June.
I've brought it
So it has been brought to the commission before other residents about this.
Through the chair.
Yes.
To appease everyone, you could do like start in the middle of July, go to the middle of August. That way, people who want it in July are satisfied at least halfway. People in August are satisfied at least halfway. I think I've heard both sides of this story too. Like I've heard a lot of people wanting more concerts, but then I've also heard people saying, I'd care more about the quality than I do the quantity. I'd rather have, fewer concerts, but then have them all be really good. And I like going to concerts when there's a ton of people there. When we have a great band and that band has a following, and then it's really great because so many people show up. And I don't like necessarily going to the concerts in the park where maybe it's not as much of a popular band or genre of music. And I think a big part of the concert isn't just about the music. It's really about the camaraderie. It's about seeing your neighbors. It's about hanging out with your friends and sharing a glass of wine and some cheese and crackers. And so I think like when there is really high quality bands, you see that. You see a big turnout. And it does cost us more. And so I think we really need to think about what we really want. We want quality. Do we want quantity? Do we want to try and bring them both together? The other thing, and that's just me saying what I've heard from everywhere. That's not necessarily my personal opinion. But this is kind of my personal opinion, so I'll just say that right now. Karaoke, I feel like you either love it or you hate it, right? With karaoke, people are like die-hard karaoke people, and they go to karaoke bars, and other people want to get as far away from karaoke as possible. Now, let's keep in mind that Brisbane is shaped like a bowl. And I don't know about you, but from my house, inside my house, I can hear whatever the concert is. And I can't really escape it because it's just the acoustics of our town. And I know if somebody was at the park belting it out really, really badly, and I couldn't escape that, oh my gosh, it would kill me. So maybe we could talk about like how loud the speakers are at the park and that sort of thing, because I know bands come in and they have these huge sound systems. You could just sit on your deck. My mom does that sometimes. She doesn't want to go out in the cold. She just sits on her deck, opens the window, and listens to the band from there. So that's something that's like in the nuts and bolts of things. That's like not really a conversation for now. But I think we really should have this conversation about what we'd really like to see and what we think the community likes to see, and trying to figure out a way that maybe we could please everyone. So maybe instead of having 5, we have 6 or 7, instead of having 8. So instead of having July and August, maybe we try and split it between them, or we have 6 weeks instead of 8 weeks. You know what I mean? So
Those are good ideas.
In terms of dealing with the public, each of us has different contexts in the community.
Right.
And we hear different stories from different people. You may hear what one group of people want. I may hear another. That's why we can put them together and try to find out what's the best thing to do. In the case of karaoke, when I did talk to Sharon, we talked about this issue. And in fact, she said instead of having a DJ night and a karaoke night, having it together, she can manage that. She's got the sound equipment, and she's a professional who can very easily take care of any problem like that. If I got up to sing, she'd turn that down. So I'm not worried about whether or not we would be bothering the community. And in fact, I've walked around the grounds of almost every concert, and I can tell you that I see the same people almost all the time. Maybe one band will bring some people from another town in, but on the whole, it's our community, and there are people who want the fun of going to the park on a Friday night. So the more that we can do in the good weather, the better I think it can be. It will depend a lot on how much money we can raise. One thing I brought up was that a few years ago I asked, couldn't we publicly in some way recognize the individuals who have donated something, not just putting one big sign up, but somehow giving them something. So we did. We gave them not a placard, but it was a poster-like thing that said, I have donated to Concerts in the Park. Those things showed up in everybody's business window. I saw Sue Cochran drove around with hers in her truck. The next year it came out, these are the people that donated, and again, it was kind of lost in there. And I asked, could we go back to I am a donor and have each individual have that personal notification that, we're recognizing them. We can do that. That's a simple thing. But I like the idea of extending the season. I like the idea of capping the amount of money and trying to raise as much money as we can, dividing it reasonably well. And I think we will satisfy people. People want to come in July can be here in July. Those that want to come in August, when the weather is better, but it's darker, as some people say, they can come in August.
This is a question. Did you discuss, because you like to have change, I like to have change. I think it mixes things up, and always, karaoke makes no difference to me. But, they have a lot of these CDs when you talked about Sharon, like the Eagles concert. You could have an Eagles concert. I thought of that when you said the white sheet. You'd have one of those screens.
She could do it.
Oh, yeah, you could have
She
it.
could do anything.
You could have,
So
if
good
you
at
didn't have a band, you could have a real concert.
Yes.
Well-
just an idea.
The thing is
Throwing it
this,
out there. But you guys could,
as a DJ, she knows what the rules are about how she can use the music that belongs to somebody else, and whether or not we end up having to pay for the use of any of these things. So I think that when we use somebody like her, we get ourselves out of trouble because she does know what she's doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, the scoop was that we're going to try to extend it, cap it,
okay.
Put it out there that if there are more people in the community that want to participate, they have to let us know and they have to send a demo.
I have one thing to add super quick. Were you?
Sure.
Okay. Vanessa from the 7 Mile House approached me last year, like right before the concert started, saying that she really wanted to donate, or maybe it was already too late at that point because there was already the lineup. And she wanted to donate and wanted, some sort of she liked the idea about, having how we recognize the donors. And she really wants people to understand that 7 Mile is part of Brisbane because it's right at the very end. And she really wanted people to come to the 7 Mile House on certain nights because they have live music like almost 7 days a week. They have live music all the time, and the bands there are good. They're really good. And I don't think they would cost that much for them to play for us. And they have a big following too. Like, people will come there every certain day of the week for that band. One night is blues, one night is jazz. They have all different themes. So she was saying you should really come, whoever's on that subcommittee should really come to the business, hear the bands that they have, and she could definitely, if you call her up, point her, say, hey, what's your best band that you got? And she could definitely let you know, and I think somebody should reach out to her and talk to her because she came to me and said she was interested in being part of this and giving feedback and donating. So
Well, we can talk to her, but here's the problem with that we have an intermediary. She then is an intermediator for these bands, whereas with all the other bands, they have to follow a procedure, apply, send a demo, we sit in a committee and we listen to the demo. Whereas we don't have to go and listen to them play on a particular night.
maybe you can just talk to them and they could send you a demo. I don't know.
I think what we'll do is we can give Vanessa the information and she can disseminate it to each of her bands and say, these people look for bands. If you're interested, apply, send a demo.
Perfect. It was just
I think
more of a resource, using her as a
Right.
resource to find out about some other great bands that may not cost us as much.
How come you don't go out and listen to bands? Does it have to be in a
You
demo?
know how many
sent in?
bands and how far they'd be and how many times you'd have to go? Because we get a lot of demos that we say, no.
Well, in the past, when we had director Jim Skills, I used to go to see bands when we did this, and we booked them that
Good.
way too.
Good.
That was in the past.
We've been doing tapes. They send demos and we listen to the demos.
Well, I know you've done that too.
Well, just as a resource, something
Yeah,
to think about. If
okay.
you want more bands and you want not a big price tag, that could be a good resource.
It is.
You could ask her, and she's interested in being a part of this. So
And
She wants to be a donator.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also,
Okay.
Renee,
Yeah,
one thing I
yeah.
think you're absolutely right about. If it were a real possibility, given everybody's schedule, that we could go and see the band in person, it is a different sense than somebody who has a manufactured demo. You can't really tell
Yeah.
what they're like from the demo as much as you can in person. So maybe that's something we need to think about
Okay,
somehow.
okay, thank you.
plus they're close. So
I beg your pardon?
they're close. So
Yeah,
But then, we don't want anybody to say, but you went there, but you didn't come and hear us, and, we'll think about it. We can talk
Okay.
about it.
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Okay, day in the park.
We also did the senior.
Well, wait, I'm going down the list. I'm going.
I'm sorry, you're going
I'm going to
through
go down the list. Day in the park, we have not met yet. Events.
that
The
was
events
what we
met?
meant. Yeah, that I already talked about it.
Okay, Festival of Lights, no. Fundraising, no. Habitat Restoration Day,
That we had a meeting.
okay.
We met and we're going to go on April 25th to San Mateo Lane for the cleanup. They're going to have 2 times this year. The next will be in June 27th at Firth Park, and it's from 9 to 1.
Okay,
Can you repeat that?
Okay,
The last one.
June 27th is Firth Park,
Okay.
and April 25th is San Mateo Lane.
Okay.
Evidently, there's quite a bit of ivy that they want to clean out.
oh, yeah,
And so they decided 2 different dates. And there'll be lunch and there'll be T-shirts. And they'll be advertising.
okay.
I met with Open Space
Oh, okay, great,
because they set these times.
okay, great. The Marina, I know we're going to meet in, this is a March thing. Public art,
No, we haven't met.
recreation programs.
We met. Do you want to talk about it?
No, you can go ahead. Because you had a lot to say about it, so.
For programs? I'm going to dive down deep into my brain to make sure I get everything. But we talked about the after school program. We talked about how they're trying to get like a little synopsis of each person up and available. I've been going and they've been making me sign out in person. And so that's been really good to see. And they tried to get the computer lab up and running for children to have access to that after school. And that was the parent's idea. And she said that the principal would be open to it. And then as emails went back and forth, it started to be less and less open until it was like pretty much they gave us hardly anything. Like, oh, you can bring 8 kids once a week or something. I don't know exactly the details. It just kept going low. And then it just like didn't even make sense anymore.
Right.
So that's not going to happen. But they're definitely trying to look into running more activities, more focused activities. And am I missing something?
Yes, there's something that came up that Russ spoke about, that he brought up, saying how much they need.
Oh, right. This is a big thing, actually.
Yes, it is a big thing.
This is a
Facility.
So they really need a bigger space. They have 50 kids, sometimes 60, 70 in the summer. The portable is really too small.
And he said they'd have to turn kids away, so.
Yeah, and they really would like to put another facility there, and he's urging us to look at putting that on our wish list towards the, we're not going to move number 1 and number 2 on that list, the quarry lighting or the bathroom situation, but he's thinking maybe we should look at it for possibly position number 3 or number 4. It may be difficult convincing the school to allow them to do that, but it's really essential at this point. So if we can get the city council behind that, it might be easier for us to convince the school district to allow us to do that. And they really could run so much better programming. They could offer way more activities. They could take in more kids. It would be better for the children to have more space.
I know that's been an ongoing issue. He's brought that up before too,
Yeah.
and I apologize for not thinking about that for our wish list when we,
Well, we can do it now.
yeah.
Can we add it?
Why not?
I mean, we can put anything we want on the list.
Okay.
Has it already gone to city council for
No, I mean,
No,
this?
no, I mean, what we talked about was that we'd come back, you know, we.
In March.
Well,
In
we,
March.
right,
March,
well, no, what this commission agreed to was that they would put the first and second items into the, told staff to put those in the budget this year, and that we would, continue to keep things on the list, and as the new things came
Yeah.
up, we would add them to it. We need to figure out how big of a space, what the cost would be, and all those kinds of other issues. So before we put something on the list, we need to do a little bit more research.
Right.
Wouldn't that be something that he would do or you would do about,
It would be something we'd work with Public Works.
right?
Yeah.
So maybe we can get the ball rolling on that. Great. Okay.
okay, recreational facilities, which that would be, so we should probably make a meeting, so we'll do that at the end. Renovation of the community center garden, no.
Isn't this one done?
That's done.
Yes,
Yeah, so we could actually take this as
we'll take that one off.
until we need to do something again, we'll add
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah.
Or just put it under recreational facilities at that point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seniors, here you go.
Well, we met, Jamie and I, with Russ and talked about the programs that we have. Sunrise Room, the senior club. Possibly doing a casino bus with the city
Ooh. That sounds fun.
and see if they could do that. I don't know if that's possible, Stuart.
Anything is possible. Well,
Yeah.
almost anything is possible. What we'd have to do is put it, figure out what the cost is, put it in as part of the budget, and see how it fits in with the overall budget. If it's going to be more of a general citywide program, it would go under, more of the adult.
I would
don't
go.
think we want to bring children
No.
to the casinos. For some reason, I just don't think that would go well.
No.
So we would add that as a potential program for, adult trips. If we would do it as a senior, the question I think would be is, how do we balance that against what the senior club does and the money that we give to the senior club for trips? So it's just a matter of, whether we would do it as an adult program for all adults or as something specific for seniors, that's where we would put it in the budget and how we would do that. And then the other question is, would we charge? Would be the other question for that. So yeah, we can look at that as part of adding that to a budget.
Here's something that came up that I was unaware of. I asked a lot of questions. I wanted to understand the difference between the senior club and senior recreation services, and came to find out that the senior club is subsidized by the city to the tune of $1,700 a month. And so this is a club to which people have to belong in order to get the benefits of the services, which in my mind appeared initially to have been sponsored by the city. Well, it doesn't make sense to me that we have, as we looked at, we looked at the STAR, and what we found was on the same page were the Sunrise Room activities and the senior club activities, and it gives the appearance that they're all part of senior services. Well, they aren't, because one is a club, and that is subsidized by the city to the tune, as I said, of $1,700 a month, which was surprising to me. And then we have the Sunrise Room, which has activities, and we don't have a senior center, and we should never say that we do, because it's disingenuous. We have a lobby to our senior housing component, and we use that lobby for activities, which is fine. It's a good use. but it isn't a senior center. Not that we need a senior center or a teenage center or a such and such center. A community center that serves everybody is one that integrates the community, has opportunities for all ages to participate. And I think funding something like that is down the road perhaps and going to be wonderful when it does happen. But dividing up our resources by saying this building is for this and this building is for this and this building is for this, I think that it just defeats our budget in the long run. So if we're giving $1,700 a month to a club, I've never heard that. We've never discussed it at the commission, and I don't know how we do discuss it. Because if it's not part of senior services, if it's just a separate club.
It's part of the budget. So when you talk about it in March, you can talk about it as part of the budget in March. This has been something that we've been doing for a very long time. We also provide money to the school district to do things for their people. We provide.
The yak.
We provide,
Yeah.
well,
Teen services.
we provide, we provide money to the school district to provide.
But do we
teen
then
services.
charge, here's what I ask. If we subsidize a program, do we then charge the people who want to use that program also?
I mean, we subsidize a number of programs in our community. We subsidize pool users all the time, and we charge them to use the pool. Over the years, I think Anya, providing the history of how this community has come about, there's a lot of volunteer groups that have gotten together, and when they provide a service that benefits a large number of people, they've come to the city, asked for funding, and we've provided funding. The seniors are one of those types of people. They've provided very good
Or the
programming.
teens.
The teens. I mean, we provide you don't pay the full cost when you're part of the Parks and Recreation programs for the children. I mean, we do this for a lot. It's just that we have not in the past had staff program the lunches for the seniors. We haven't had staff do the trips for the seniors. This has all been done through the club. It might be something that the commission might want to say that we would like to do that differently going forward, but that would be an additional use of staff resources that up until this point we've never had to expend staff resources on.
Well, I think
So it's
that,
just and I think just to go further, all programs in the city, if there are people who can't afford to participate in those programs, as a city, we do, and we talked about it at this commission before, we provide scholarships. So if there are seniors who can't afford to partake in the senior club because their dues are too high, we of course would we would provide that as a scholarship to the senior. And I know this, I've been to the senior lunches a number of times. They don't turn people away.
No.
Well, I
Whether
think-
they can pay or not.
I
whether they
think
can or
that's the
not.
thing that we want to be sure of, is that we don't disparage the efforts of somebody who's been doing this in any way. We just want to know, how is this done? And if another group wanted to come and say, we want to run a group
Well,
for
I mean,
this
we
group of people.
provide BDW free space for theirs, and we don't, and if somebody has problems in affording BDW, there are scholarships that are available for people to use BDW programs. I mean, we, as a city, we try and maximize the resources that we have, and when people come together and put together programs, we try very hard to figure out how do we support them.
Okay.
We really do try to accommodate everyone we can, no matter what age they are. Let me just ask, what are the dues?
The dues, they assess themselves, and they assess themselves. It usually is around $10 a month, but that's four meals, four meetings, 4 meals, and bingo prizes.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it covers that.
Steal.
And then what's the $1,700 a month? What's that cover?
That covers eating.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
mean,
it's
you
expensive. It's catered pretty much.
Right, you can't afford, the types of food, once a month we do a barbecue for the
Okay.
seniors. There are times that they go to, I think once a year you go to Dominic, once a year you
For
go
Christmas.
to Westlake
Okay.
Joe's. So there's a number of things that they put on that, that the 20 plus.
No one's getting
$1,000.
rich out of the
No,
money.
and what
It
age
goes back
do you
in.
have to be?
60.
60. So I can join next year.
Good.
So, so in which case, what I asked is that we separate in the star, we make sure that these are known to be two different things, and then have an invite to people to join the club, should they wish, and then list what the club's events are. We may have more people in the active seniors group that will want to join the group when they see it as this is an active seniors group.
It's a great idea.
Okay. Oh, yes, Anya.
I just wanted to add my own personal experience again. I have been, to the senior club a couple of times, I think, and I don't think club means
It means
exclusive
nothing.
at all.
Yeah.
It's just a name that's always been used. It's a program that is run by volunteers with city support, and there was no indication that I couldn't come. I was asked if I would join, and I think I did for a couple months, but I never came
Yes.
back because I don't care for bingo, and I wish they had
A lot of people don't play bingo.
right. So if they had a little variety of programs, it might like just even
Well, we've had speakers.
singing and
We've had speakers come. The last one was at Home Again, that they come out and help you if you need help, that
But,
sort of thing. So we do have people that come out and speak.
Yeah.
And
But activities like you could have sitting exercises like we do it wonderful in agile aging. I wish more people older people would do something to move instead of just sit
yes,
there. And
exactly.
Plus, the meals have been contributed to by the people. Some people bring. So the club members do contribute, not just
Yeah,
Edus,
potluck.
but also
Yes.
some potluck. So I found that, it was really, that's what they want to do, and it's very popular.
It is very popular. We have
Plus-
35 members right now. We picked up 2 today, 2 new ones.
That's
Plus,
fantastic.
I see a whole table full of staff members getting a lunch.
Well,
Some of that
That's the
money
best.
goes
That's
to,
what we do is, a lot of what we do is we do bring our police department there. So
Right.
because
Yeah, the police
That's a
come,
good
and
thing.
it's good
Because
because
that's
the
really-
seniors have
They're
someone to relate
networking.
to.
well, yeah, they're there for a reason, but
They're there
they
for a
do
reason.
get their
Oh, they
reward.
eat. Oh, yes, they do eat.
some of the police officers don't. Some of them don't.
Some don't. They'll
But I
say
agree.
no.
With, Anya,
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
going through my issues with my feet, I agree. Agile aging. More people should participate because they don't fall
Right.
and they are laid up for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Can I think the thing that really spins people away from that is the aging part. Because Stuart, I don't know that maybe you see yourself as a person who is suddenly aged because
I am aging.
Yes, of course we all are.
Maybe you don't want to admit it.
But no, I think if we could call it, agile activity, agility, and reinforcement,
this is
whatever, something else. But the bottom line is to not have it.
This is the title that the person who came up with the class has called it.
I know. I
And
spoke
and
to.
this
I
is,
spoke to
this is
her.
the conversation that we've had before. is
Right.
About
we-
branding.
We always
branding
let
the
people
name.
Just
name
like
their
the
classes
club.
what they want.
Yeah.
The club is.
I like that it
a
sounds nice,
name.
though.
In any case, if we have the club
Thank you, Anya.
advertised as an active seniors club and have that written as such, we may have other people who are interested in saying, well, this is an activity group. This is a group that does things that are fun, and we might get some more members, and that would be nice for the community.
Okay. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you. Skate park. There's going to, well, I wasn't at that last meeting. We already talked about that. I
Yeah.
think at the last meeting before. But when is the next forum for the
Well,
skate park?
the forum was done. The architect is coming up with different designs based on that option 2, which is what the community liked.
Right.
That will be. I think they're still working on developing that to the next level. So I'm not quite sure when that will be
Okay.
finished, but probably, my guess is we're still looking at, maybe later in February, early in March. I've had a conversation with Karen And obviously, we're not going to close the skate park during the summer, but we are looking at hopefully getting the skate park revamped early to late fall
Okay,
this year.
that's what
finished?
I thought.
Well, as long as we can find as long as there is a funding for it, yes.
Terrific.
Okay, great. Sustainability Committee, we're going to be meeting at 6 PM on February 10th. So there's that. Teen Services,
We didn't meet because
Yeah.
it's just me.
March, right.
Right.
And Trails Development.
Well, that's going to be an interesting one because Karen will not be
Right,
able to be on that because she'll be conflicted
Right.
out based on
and
if
then,
Karen. But my understanding is that 4 people have applied, so
Right.
you may be back up to 7. So there may
Yeah.
be more possibilities for more bigger committees.
But wait, what about Karen? She won't start until.
Well,
If-
if
we'll get to that at
right.
staff.
I'll talk about
staff
it after
report.
staff.
Okay.
We'll do that. Trails, Stuart and I met, and we went over, I believe it was the bicentennial.
Yeah, I think we looked at the walkways. There's a book from the 70s and another book from the 80s,
Oh, yeah,
as Anya talked about, talking about what the walkway system through town. So
Yes.
when you think about the alleys are really more for dedicated walkways. And so what Renee talked about at the committee, because staff doesn't really talk very much, is potentially putting something like asking the council to dedicate $10,000 a year to start improving the walkways to the standards that was developed through the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
So that way every year we just take on a new portion of a walkway. And it's paving, it's lighting, it's where you need
Maintenance.
maintenance,
yeah.
putting steps in on some of those ones where there's like a big drop. So that was the idea. And also just to let you know, I know one of the things that was added that's in the budget for 14-15 is looking at doing some kind of design process for the walkway up Santa Clara, from Alvarado to Santa Clara, and then Santa Clara to Tulare.
That would be great.
there's
That's
a-
very dangerous.
Because there is a city easement there.
Wait, is this also including the stairs too?
It would,
With the chairs.
which,
Like the stairs from Solano to
Yeah, that would be
Sierra
included.
Point? Okay.
right, those are part of the walkways.
Okay, that counts. Okay. I just didn't know if it was just alleys or
No, it
also
would be-
stairs.
It's all the walk,
It's
it's the
all the,
walkways.
Okay, because some of those really need some lighting, man.
yeah.
Or like
Well-
really dark.
Since Tulare got mentioned, one of the issues is you probably all know if you've been up there when they've had a fire truck up there or an ambulance, and getting it in and getting it out is very difficult, and there is only the one way, and that probably isn't going to change. However, if we ever had to walk out of there, we'd all have to walk to the end of Tulare to get out. And I'm talking to San Bruno. Whereas if we could have stairs down to Santa Clara at the end of Tulare rather than that big drop, I think that's a critical point, because that's an egress for people at least on foot to be able to be safe in case of a fire that started, let's say, towards the San Bruno end. There'd be no way out for a lot of people. I mean, I've looked at it many times, tried to figure out how you get through, and sometimes you just would have to walk through neighbors' yards across the street and down, but some of those are very, very deep drops. So if we could look at having some stairs at the end of Tulare, that would be,
That's part of the design
Yeah.
process that the city council approved,
Yeah.
looking at for as I said, from Alvarado to Santa Clara and then Santa Clara to
wonderful, thank
Tulare.
you.
Trinity,
I couldn't
too.
tell you
Yeah.
when it's going to happen, but I know that the design was in the budget.
But also this year in the budget, the one, yeah, that one is going to be finally done after 13 years.
And the
The lights and the railing,
community,
yeah, at the back of
Center.
the community center.
Yes.
And the railway, the handrail
yeah.
at Bicentennial. So that will be done.
Do we have any other places like Tulare Street where there is no other way out?
Trinity isn't Trinity one way? Unless you like walk up onto the mountain. But what if the mountain's on fire?
Well, then you go
Trinity
the
is
other way
a-
out.
Yeah, that,
Trinity
bottom
is
line
a
is
dead
that-
end, but Trinity is a dead end, right?
yeah.
The bottom line of Tulare is there's no way out. I think that's a very serious place.
I don't know if eventually they'd make a trailway that would go down to the back of Lippman. There's a lot of little pathways, but that's digging into San Bruno Mountain, so that,
I feel like Trinity is
Yeah.
similar. I mean,
Yeah.
you go in
but
and then
that's
there's
the
no
only way
out,
I'd see,
really.
and you'd probably have to go through open space.
So I want to go back
Yeah.
to the Tulare one. Have you ever walked to the end of Tulare Street?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, you know what that
Yeah.
big drop is.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's no way to get out of there.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm hoping you'll really
Well,
support.
that's how Santa Clara Street used to be. I mean, it wasn't a big drop, but you couldn't get out, and then they finally opened it
You could
up.
go around the back.
Yeah, but no, years ago, that was just a dead
see.
end too.
I see.
But then I don't know, what year
Well,
did they?
Yeah, I think it's been since I've been here, so it's
Yeah,
probably
15,
06.
yeah,
Maybe 06 is maybe when
Yeah.
somebody bought. So what happens is somebody builds a house,
yeah.
and when somebody
opened
builds a
it up.
house, they've got to finish.
Yeah.
They've got to put a street, and
Yeah.
they built their house, the two houses that are new on San Francisco and
Santa Clara.
Santa
Santa
Clara.
Clara,
They finished the street from Santa Clara to San
that was-
Francisco. And I mean, if you look at Tulare, I mean, I don't hike the mountain, I will tell you, but I know I know that there are people who go up and down the Fire Road, which is I think what it's called when you go at the backside, the backside of Tulare and the backside of Santa Clara. There's a fire road that I know people walk on all the time.
The only problem with that is there's a ravine, and if you come off of San Bruno into that, people get stuck there and they end up doubling back. There are people who can climb through it, but they have to be in pretty good
Yeah,
shape.
I mean,
but it's straight down off the back.
Right, and that's why the city council, looked at
They're
the
looking at
walkways
that,
and are
yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to fund all the different needs of the community.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
thank you. So that's the end of our report. Okay, setting subcommittee meetings.
Facilities, we have facilities.
Yes, we need
I
to,
think, I think if you go down the list, it sounds like there should be another Concerts in the Park meeting.
Yes,
okay,
yes, there will be.
thank you.
Right. Day in the Park, you probably don't need. Maybe you might want to start thinking about it. But
Maybe
you're
we
talking
should.
about you're talking about adding different kinds of activities, and if we want to,
Okay.
if we want to do a budget change, we're going to
Right,
talk about the budget
okay.
in
Oh,
March.
yes, yes,
So it
yes.
probably would make some sense to do the Day in the Park
Okay, day in the park,
as a subcommittee meeting this month.
okay, concerts in the park.
Concert events, Festival of Lights. I don't think you need to do yet unless you want to do something really different.
Did you say events?
I don't know. There's not really.
No.
Well, how about your events for your
Hydrant.
hydrants?
I need to figure some things out before we
Okay.
set a meeting. So
Okay, so
I will.
And the
Well,
last time
can I contact you when I'm
just
ready to have?
contact me.
Okay.
And the last time Madison and I talked is we're thinking maybe doing the hydrant. If we're going to do another hydrant painting, doing it at a different time of year when there's less things on the calendar. So I think
Right.
you and I talked about
Yeah,
August.
July, August.
Yeah, do something then when there's less events on the calendar. So we'll probably do events for the hydrant in a couple of months just to get that one geared up for the next time around.
Right. September is staff felt it was too
Well, do you want to
hectic.
do something in the spring? Because we still have some of those fire hydrants.
I feel
that
like it's
still
too
need to
Yeah,
be.
but I would
Okay.
rather get the show done
Okay,
so
Me
that way
too.
we could concentrate on one thing and then concentrate on the next.
We could advertise there or let people know. Hey,
okay. So are you going to meet for events subcommittee? Yes or no?
no,
Okay.
not right now.
Fundraising.
We haven't had a fundraising meeting since last year, and we then, at that point, we were talking about having someone come in who worked on the Sausalito Art and Wine Festival and see if they could give us a talk. And, I don't know what you want to do about it. I think we should look at fundraising at some point. If it's just too much at this point, we could let it lay for a couple months, but I think that, we're going to have to start addressing it at some
Okay.
point.
For fundraising, what is that fundraising for?
I think it's fundraising too. So the original idea when we put this together was recognizing that when there are recessions,
Yes.
Parks and Recreation departments are at the top of the list of things to reduce. So the goal is if we can start thinking about having a good fundraising event that can raise significant amount of money. My long-term dream would be doing something like a cook-off down in the Sierra Point. So you do like maybe a food truck competition where you can bring in 10,000 people down there, because I think it could fit that many, and you do a food truck competition over a weekend, and it can raise a couple $100,000 for the city. And that way, when there are, and it takes 4 or 5 years to build something like that up.
Right.
So, you don't sit there and say during the recession you do it now.
Now.
So you start building up some kind of following, and then when there's a recession, there's money set aside that the city can use for recreation programs, so it doesn't have to look at cutting recreation, because when you compare, do I want to reduce a police officer or reduce a parks and recreation person? I mean, it's a hard one for the city council and the community to say, yeah, let's give up a little bit of safety so we can do parks and recreation. So that's the idea. So I think the sooner we can start really honing to that big idea, I think, maybe talking with the 2 hotels
Right.
who are down at Sierra Point might be
Right.
helpful.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to try and set up a meeting with the 2 general managers, because I can see us doing something with them for the Super Bowl weekend
Terrific.
that's coming up.
Yeah.
So let me meet with them, see what we're doing, and then also, but that's not so much a fundraiser as an event to go
Yeah.
along with the Super Bowl and get.
I love it.
But the idea would be to try and do some kind of large event someplace, and if we ever
Marina.
can build the park, the big park at the marina, that would be a perfect location. It's got lots of parking. I mean, there's a lot of good things to be said. So that was what the idea was.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
then there's other things you could talk about fundraising. You can do things, for the hydrants. You can do smaller types of fundraising for particular kinds of programs if you would like. But this was really, when we talked about this a couple of years ago, it was the tail end of the recession. We were really thinking, how do we
Not
become
get
more
into it.
recession proof?
Yeah.
I love
There were
that
a couple
idea.
other types of events, like since we have land down at Sierra Point, putting a carnival on, people would, that's something that draws people off a freeway. They might step over. People would go on dates there. They would go and take their family. We talked about that. We talked about selling fireworks. With a lot of people who had done that in the past said, well, if you did it down at Sierra Point, and that was the only place you could do it, and you had a firework event, something
I
of
think
that
there's a
sort.
law against selling them here.
I'm just saying, these are the things that
yeah.
came up, and the food truck, and there was a barbecue, cook-off barbecue. But those are the kinds of things that to make a lot of money and to have a coffer, as opposed to be stuck at the last minute if something happens.
Yeah,
could
they
think of
they have down there at Fort Mason on the grid.
Off the grid.
Off the grid, thank you.
On the grid.
On the grid, off the grid. It's a fun thing. I've been down there several times.
Good.
And that's one of those things that there's a lot of food trucks in the area, and if you can do it in such a way that you can give them prizes, then more,
You could do salsa festival.
right.
Oh, there.
Yes.
You guys meet in
Wine.
events, maybe in
Well, that's
We're like the same crew for both
fundraising.
things.
Yeah.
So
April.
the
April
event is
events.
a different.
Yes.
Add
yes.
just another memory when we had the Sister City movement, with Australia really active. We were sending 2 kids to Australia and raised funds for that. And the fundraiser was at Sierra Point called Shrimp on the Barbie, the Australian style barbecue. And that was done by the Lions, and the weather was so windy. We didn't have many people come. We did raise some funds, and we were able to send the kids, two girls, to Australia, because we hosted the Australians here many times. So, the shrimp, I do know it is wonderful to do it there, and with the Yacht Club Corporation, and maybe
Really?
the Chamber. Those ideas are really good, using a Sierra Point for
Yeah.
something bigger.
Something big
Yeah.
that
Do it.
it wouldn't tax.
Well, we haven't done anything out there since Marina Madness, so it's been several years.
Yes, it
So
is.
it's time to get that back going.
Okay.
I'm going to go down, after looking at this, just the next one is just recreational facilities. We should meet.
that up just
So set that up, staff, please. Okay, then that's it. I think the others, Or do- Yes, so you have concerts in the park, day in the park, and recreational facilities
In fundraising.
Fundraising.
and fundraising. Oh, I didn't think you were going to do fundraising.
Yeah, we are, because we want,
Yeah.
we
Okay,
not-
say
we
what?
don't want that to kind of sit back until we're desperate.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to commissioners. Any commissioners have anything?
Nope.
I do. I would like to see us do something with the kids. You're going to love the next word, basketball. The basketball. You guys need to know that I love basketball, but I love most sports. And what I am most dedicated to is this age group, because I am so fearful that we lose kids when they get to this certain age if we don't keep them active and keep them involved and give them things to do, et cetera, et cetera. So, actually, just as an aside, I was over there with the kids, and they were talking about the baskets, and there were kids, of course, hanging on the hoops again and dragging them down, and it won't be long before they can bend them. But I said to one guy, I said, can you show me how you can raise the basket and lower the basket? And he said, well, I'll give it a shot. So he went over, and he was a pretty good sized fellow. And he went over, and there's the mechanism is like this. It looks like a cup, and you have to turn it like this. And it takes a long time to do it. You can do it, but it takes a long time to do it. And I think that we have some pretty savvy engineers in this town that could find a way to make that a little bit easier to get it up and down, and then we would have people using it differently. But anyway, what I was hoping to do was to have a competition, a foul shooting competition, where the kids that when there's only one basket available, instead of them standing around, they would be really motivated to be shooting foul shots on the one basket that they can use, and see if we can get some sponsors to award prizes. And besides, it'll give the kids some upgrade in their skills. It will help them make their teams when they're in high school. And I think they'd like it. So I ran it by a couple of the fellows that are over there, and they said, oh yeah, we would love it, but give us a lot of time to practice before you announce it. So that's something I'd like us to look forward to, is to look for a season, a time when we don't have a big deal going on, and make that sort of the deal of the month, and do a foul shooting competition and advertise it really well.
Would that be for fundraising, or because you could charge to enter?
We could.
And then there could be a prize, and that could go into a fund for other things, or that could be to fix the basket.
Fix the baskets when they need
I
it.
don't know, but
Okay, bring that up in your
yeah, okay.
committee.
We'll discuss.
Okay, any other commissioner?
Nope.
No.
Okay, staff, here you go.
It's my turn. Right now, we still have baseball signups. I think they're pretty much done. The Pinto League, we got enough people to make 2 teams.
Great.
But the people that are on the waiting list need to come in and pay so we can get that going on the second team. So we're waiting on that. But Steve's already talked to the baseball organizations and told them we have 2 Pinto teams. The Mustang team is full, and we still have, I think, 4 spots left on the T-ball. So people can still sign up for that.
What age is T-ball?
T-ball is 4 to 6. So if you're 4 to 6, you can sign up for that.
They can sign their name at 4 to 6. That'd be impressive. Their parents would sign up.
They can
You,
sign
you
their-
don't
yeah.
have Pee-wee here, do you? It's just T-ball, and then
T-ball.
it goes up to what? What's next?
Mustang, and that's 9. That's 9-10.
Okay.
So I'm getting in the school packets tomorrow. There will be a flyer going out for spring camp registration and summer camp registration days when that opens. And spring camp registration will be opened as of next Tuesday. We're just finalizing the calendar right now, so that'll be up online next Tuesday for residents.
How much does that cost?
It's $27 a day, and it's 2 weeks. So that's for residents. It's 32 for non-residents. And then summer camp registration will begin on March 10th for residents. So we're getting that calendar together now, and that will be up March 10th. But other than that, for right now, I think we have the new activity guide will be coming out, I believe it's April 1st. So we'll have more things coming up for summer. There'll be a lot of activities at that point that will be getting up online. But for right now, that's pretty much all we have activity-wise.
Renee?
Yes.
Through the chair, I would just like to ask that in the activity guide, that somewhere we put the fact that we do, I don't know if we want to call them scholarships or whatever, that if you want to participate and at this time are unable to pay the fee, you know, if you let us know, we do have slots open for, I don't know how we want to, or.
I'll look, I know we have that online. I know that is online.
I see.
So if you go online, there is a section that will tell you if you want to come into the office, we do have that available. I don't think you can fill that out online, though. You have to come into the office, but I
Can we
don't.
put it in writing? In the,
But yeah, I will check and see if we have somewhere we can put that in the activity guide. I don't believe it's in there at this point, so.
Thank you.
It might be in the registration section, but I'll check and find out and see what we can get put in there.
Because when people look at the schedule of what's available and they're figuring where they can fit or where their kids can fit, you know, I think they do have to look at, especially if they have, you know, a couple of kids, whether or not they can make all of these because of the funding. But if we do have, you know, a note that says if at this time you are unable to pay for this program but you want to attend, please notify us. We do have slots available.
I'll look and see. Yeah, they're getting everything ready for print soon, so I'll look and see.
Yes, yes.
That and then, as long as I'm here, at the pool, the classes are very often full, stand up full, and you know, like in my family, we were not able to participate last summer, and so. But then, as the summer goes on, people drop off, students drop off. Some of the little ones, for instance, they just don't want to be in the water anymore, and so or it's too cold or whatever. So there's room later. So could there be a way to allow kids to enroll later?
Have a waiting list?
Yeah,
I mean, we could do something like a waiting list.
Well, there is a waiting list for all the activities. Yeah, anytime an activity fills up, you automatically go into the waiting list. And then when somebody drops out, we get the notification that says you now have a spot open. So we go to the first person on the waiting list.
They may not announce that they're dropping off. They just stay out. They just stay away. And then you see that the teacher's working with one kid when they should be
Yeah,
four.
that would be the pool. Then we would have to, and I think Ben's going to be a lot better at communication with stuff like that. So he would be needing to communicate that to me. They may even, are they going to get ActiveNet up there?
I don't know.
Yeah, they may even be able to do that on their own up there at some point. But for right now, if that were the case, then they would communicate that back to me, and I can handle that in our system.
As long as there's a process, you know,
Yes.
if you know, you go to a pool and you find that there is room in this class right this minute, if kids could then be allowed to get in the pool, even though it's, you know, just class time.
And I came.
I think what you're asking for is something slightly different. Because, I mean, what happens sometimes is somebody might not. So our classes are 2 weeks long. So we go Monday through Thursday for 2 weeks. And somebody's there Monday, Tuesday, they miss Wednesday, but then they show up again next Monday.
Oh, we're talking about the weekend classes only. You
So,
know,
okay, so
kids
the
only
weekend
available.
classes are 8 weeks long. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the challenge is somebody might sign up and skip 2 weeks because they're on vacation.
Right.
And what you're saying is that for that, if we see that there is a room available and there's somebody somebody who would like to participate at the pool at that time, could they participate in the class? I'll talk to Ben about that.
Yeah,
But that's
what I'm
slightly
asking.
different
Yeah.
than having somebody actually physically drop out of a class. You're saying if there's,
Yeah.
based on the fact that maybe somebody's not here this week, because we won't know that until they don't show up a lot of the times.
And of course, the teachers may say, I can see this, say, oh, well, we have our 8
We have our week thing.
program, and we can't.
But
really
I'll
take
talk to
someone
Ben.
dropping in.
I'll talk to Ben
but
about drop-ins.
Drop-in would be very
Yeah,
valuable.
I understand
for
that.
some
And I'll talk to Ben about drop-ins.
Can we ask people, if you intend to take a vacation during this 8-week period, please notify us
We
beforehand?
could. We could ask them that at the beginning.
Or is there
I mean, you
a
never know.
role,
You might get somebody who's going to miss different people miss all 8 weeks.
Right?
or is there a rule you miss 3 classes, you're out?
Well,
You don't, no, I didn't know.
I
Do
don't
you
think
have
so. I
that
don't
or
think
not?
there is because,
Okay.
you know,
Do we take residents of Brisbane first?
we do all of our signups where the residents of Brisbane have, you know, as Tricia just said, there's a week period where the residents have first option and non-residents can't sign up during that period of time.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of times what happens is we do signups and everybody's life is busy and they don't notice when the signup was. And then 3 weeks later they come to us and we go, sorry, and they go, well, how many non-residents do you have in the class? It's like, well, you know, a third of the class is non-residents, but we can't help you and it's really hard for for staff to try and balance. But that's where the drop-ins might come in helpful for the swimming stuff. And I'll talk to Ben.
We utilize Channel 27 as much as we could? I mean, do we have to pay more if we
No,
start?
we don't. No, we can put up PowerPoint slides on there all the time. We can do that.
Can't we do this for all of our classes that
Sure.
are going on? Sign up by this day, you know?
Sure.
Because people flip through that. I take a look at it all the time, even though there's not a meeting on, to see what's going on. I look at the Peninsula one to see what's going on in other parts of the community.
We'll talk to working with Caroline to get.
Great,
sign
thank
up.
you.
Okay,
PowerPoint
do you have anything else
Well,
to add?
just to let you know,
staff?
that there was I sent an email to Sherry today. There are 4 people who have applied for the Parks and Recreation Commission, so there are up to 3 spots available. I have not heard when they're going to do interviews, but I had suggested that they try and do them at the February 19th meeting, so that way you would be have everybody back by March for your March meeting. So I'm not quite sure if that's going to make the calendar or not, but I will check with Sherry and check with Clay to see if we can at least get the Parks and Recreation Commission interviews done on the 19th, but it's always trying to work with council time. So I don't know what their time schedule is like on the 19th, but hopefully we can get that done on the 19th so you can be fully
Right.
functioning in March, because we were going to put a number of items on the March agenda expecting that.
Okay, commission matters, written communications. I don't have any written communications at this time.
Wait a minute.
Do you have?
Wasn't there a written, a letter that went to you?
I mean, I think a lot of it was addressed to some extent. I mean, I think there was an email that was talking about the use of the fact that Silver Spots Park was out of commission, and I know we've responded directly to the person about that as to why that was. There was concern about how people are using the community park at times, and I believe that we've talked to the person who wrote that communication, that we do have the PSAs during the summer, that the police department does do periodic patrols, and if, you know, as I would always say, if somebody sees something in this town that is inappropriate,
Call the
call
police.
467-1212, which is if you feel like it's not an emergency, call 467-1212, which is the police department's non-emergency line. If there's a police officer who's available, they will, swing by whatever area you think that they need to swing by. A lot of times, if you see something, what happens is that the person has stopped it by the time the police has shown up. But please do. I mean, the police department does periodic swings through the town. They drive by, they get out, and they walk. Those kinds of So those are the kinds of things. And the other issue that was raised was the idea of providing services on the weekends for younger children. We have, as we talked about last time, we got music time with Teresa, which I think is toddlers to 3.5. I think we're in conversation with Teresa to see if she wants to do an older one for that. We've talked to BDW about potentially doing classes, but BDW can't find any instructors for the weekends. We have worked very hard trying to find, and we've talked about this
Yeah.
kind of stuff previously, and I think this gets to a lot of what Anya was saying about the history of the program. There was a lot of people who at one time volunteered for the city to put on these kinds of things. For parents would get together and say, okay, we need to do a dance class for kids, and they would say, and if somebody comes to us and say we'd like to do that, we'll find space on the weekends for them. But we have done, from a staff perspective, we've reached out to the people that we deal with. We've reached out to people BDW deals with. We've reached out to other cities as to who their instructors are. And this is the challenge of, for us, getting a class of 5 people is a good class. And for a lot of instructors, they want more. And in fact, the music time for Teresa, if you remember the conversation from last month, I was about to announce that it was canceled, but just that day, the 2 people who needed to sign up signed up. So I think I think that was what the communication was about.
Yeah, and as a writer of that memo, I admit that you have a new situation now. What was not possible before is now so much easier with all this social media. The word really gets around on the
Chauffeur's here.
Yeah, my chauffeur's here.
Yeah.
on all sorts of things that are needed going on or problems. Some people, a lot of word gets around in a different way. And so, for instance, the working mothers that can't come here and the kids that can't come here, like the skateboard kids can come here, but the toddlers can't come here and talk to you. There are ways to do it, and I appreciate that there's been effort, but I still think it's quite possible to have a class for 5 to 7 year olds or 3 to 7 year olds of some sort of music or dance that were. And then there could be fundraising for that.
But we just need to get the instructor. We're all ready to have it.
I've also talked to mothers of Brisbane about it and asked them their interest.
Yeah, but they're not working mothers. They are at-home mothers who have.
Oh no, not all of them. Not all of them.
Don't generalize.
Yeah.
But.
Well, there was one other part of that letter that really struck me because I've addressed it many times myself while over at the park. We have kids during concerts, during Day in the Park, who will get up on the bottom branches of that tree, the big Christmas tree, and they are bouncing on it. And other people, when I say something to the kids, they say, "Oh, it's a tree, that's what it's for." It isn't. They're going to break those bottom branches off, or they're going to get hurt. And I really think that, I don't know what we can do about it. I would like somebody to take a look at it and not just accept that they're going to do this.
I'm going to be the bad person here, but I'm kind of glad that some kids are climbing a tree and they are off their cell phone and their technical devices. I know that's just a bad thing that I just said.
No, it isn't.
But
It's just they're not climbing the tree. They
but-
stand on the bottom branch and they jump.
They don't know how to climb trees because they're on their cell phone.
Well, I think this is the reason why over the city council in the summer has, on the weekends have PSAs that that are in the park.
Yeah.
And I think the question is, if you see that, the best person to deal with it, if they're not listening to the adult who's there at the moment, 467-1212. The police, a police
Can we
officer
put
will
a
show
little
up.
fence around the very bottom? It'll keep them from getting onto that branch.
But that would keep people from climbing the trees, and I would say that this was brought up
Would stop them.
this was brought up at the Parks and Recreation Commission from the Open Space and Ecology Committee, which has asked the asked at one point for the Parks and Recreation Commission to disallow climbing trees in the park, and the Parks and Recreation Commission, this one who's currently sitting, said no, people should be allowed to climb trees.
He did say that.
So
This isn't a climbing of a tree. That's what I'm saying. Is there's a real. You have to see it. I'm talking.
No, I understand what you're saying. I understand that. But if we put a fence around that tree, then we're saying, we should just say that people are not allowed to climb trees.
Okay, I want to move on and get off that.
There's one last thing. We keep saying it, and it is something serious. We keep saying to call 467-1212 just to get the police. A lot of people only use a cell phone now. If they call 911 on it, they get the highway patrol. If they call 467-1212, they do get the city, and that is the same as 911. So if we tell people, if you need to call 911, call 467-1212, that's a safety issue for them, and I think we ought to make that announcement somewhere. Because otherwise, if they dial 911, they've got the highway patrols who don't even, some of them don't even know, well, where is Brisbane? And so some way to notify the general public. I've always told new neighbors.
It's in every spot.
It's in, yeah,
It was on the signboard.
But it doesn't, what I'm saying is, this is the police number, but it doesn't say this is 911. This is how you would access the police as if you were calling 911.
Okay.
Trust me, it's an issue.
Non-emergency.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
non-emergency.
there's one more
yeah.
thing I'd like to bring up because about the park. The gate there that was installed just lately, to keep the toddlers from getting to the street, that was open also last weekend. Because it requires you to lock it by hand after you've been through it. And of course, most people just walk through and the gate stays open. So the gate should be redone so that it locks or closes automatically, and that you'd have to lift this thing to open it. But right now, you have to manually close it, and that means it's never.
Okay, that's a public works issue. Okay, so commission calendar, here we go. Thank you.
Well, I know we're going to bring the budget, which is probably going to take a fairly lengthy time. We were going to bring the mission statement and the values, which
Correct.
that was going to be. Those were the two major items. But I also would imagine
That's new business.
New business. I would imagine you would want to also deal with concerts in the park to set a schedule at that meeting.
If we're going to have the budget and the other, should we wait?
Well, I think when you talk about the budget, then concerts in the park is a budget item.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, I think that will probably get included
you.
in that one.
Well, and then, we better, because then we'll have the recreational facilities, and we'll be bringing that up about,
I mean, we
after
could
school
put
program. Okay.
things on,
yeah,
and then if we just if we don't get to them, we'll
adjourn and come back.
adjourn and come back. Tricia was reminding me that there's one other item, and I just top of my head I cannot remember, but we will send out an email to everybody to let you know what that last
Mission
item is.
statement.
Well, the mission
Notes.
statement of values already said.
Okay.
But there was one other item that we had said we were going to do, and I cannot remember. But we will let the commission know, and we will.
I have all that.
Yeah, we have that because that was the December agenda.
Yeah.
December minutes had that. So I apologize for not remembering, but there's one other major item that we had talked about bringing back for March
Okay, I'm trying to
because
think.
we were waiting until we had a full commission,
Okay,
and I'll let the commission know. I apologize. I can't just top of my head can't remember.
okay. And then are we bringing back anything for old business?
Not right now.
So old business will have none.
It'll all be new business.
Yeah, okay, see, that's how it goes. We flip-flop. Okay, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:10.
Amen.
Turn your mics.
Are we taking these books, or they're just?
You can have the books.
I don't play a damn. I don't play a damn thing.